Today we're making vegan Palak Paneer.
This is like Derica's favorite thing in the whole world. She's had me make it a few times. We actually used a recipe inspired by rainbow plant life and made it a little bit simpler. And you know, she's an expert in that sort of thing. I'm not, so I did the best I could. But this is actually really, really good. Derica likes it, so yay, works for me. All right.
To start off, we're going to use a full bag of spinach.
Now, a full bag means 9 ounces. The recipe calls for 8 to 10 ounces of fresh spinach. We got 9. We're smack in the middle. Happens to be from Publix, pre-washed, the whole deal.
And we're just going to dump this right in the blender.
Yes. First part starts off in the blender, if you didn't figure that part out yet. I probably should have mentioned that. Getting it all in there is a little difficult. Just pack it in, it's okay. It's a lot of spinach, but you can do it. First ingredient.
Now we're using our smaller sized top for our Vitamix.
But this is spinach. It's mostly air. See, look. It packs down, don't worry.
I'm concerned regardless.
Yeah, me too.
The next ingredient is cashews. Now, if you aren't using a high-speed blender like we are, you might, and by might, I mean you probably want to soak those overnight in water.
Or for at least 10 minutes in boiling water.
And that was half a cup.
Yes.
Our next ingredient is 2 cloves of garlic. So I'm sticking to 2 cloves, but I found a monster cloves.
So it's kind of like 4.
Our next ingredient is 1.5 inches of fresh ginger. Now, my hack of the day, Brian hates that word, but it's okay. For ginger,
it's a tip.
To peel it, you simply just take a spoon and go, and it peels right off. The next ingredient is 1 Serrano Pepper. Now, because we're blending this, we don't even have to chop that, which is great, because if you get spice juice on your hands, bad things can happen.
If you don't like it too spicy, you can cut it in half, remove the seeds if you want to. I like it spicy.
The next ingredient is 2 small tomatoes. Now, we never get small tomatoes. We either get the really tiny tomatoes or the giant tomatoes. So we're doing most of a large tomato.
It's not super critical. The recipe will not break if you don't use the proper amount of tomato.
And finally, it's 3/4 of a tablespoon of salt.
That was teaspoon.
Teaspoon. Or a good pinch.
There we go.
Now, before we start blending this, we want to talk a little bit about what this is served on. This is served on rice. Our preference of rice is brown rice. So we have our brown rice already going in the Instant Pot. I'm going to put a link in the description below of how easy it is to cook brown rice in an Instant Pot. And as Brian is so hopefully reminding me, our last ingredient is 1 1/4 cup of water.
This is why I'm not worried about it blending. However, I'm going to do it off camera so you can't see it anyway. Be right back. Okay, I did have to wipe down the sides once to get this to blend, but it's incredible. It's this lovely green.
It's so vibrant, it's beautiful.
I mean, look at that color. And it's garlicky, it's herby, it's fresh, a little bit of spice. It's lovely.
But it's gonna get better, just you wait. So the next thing we need to do is prep our tofu. So
which is our stand-in for paneer, which is cheese.
Yes. So this is what makes it vegan. Otherwise, it would be vegan with
vegetarian.
Cheese. Yeah, true. All right, so this is extra firm tofu that we had frozen, and then we rethawed it and squeezed out some of the excess water, but we weren't too careful about squeezing out the water because of what we're gonna do to it next.
You just wanna cube it. Cubes of the size of your choice. I tend to go with like 1/2 to 2/3 of an inch. So like a block this size, I can usually get 6 slices across on. Just eyeball it. Doesn't have to be perfect. You're gonna boil them. I mean, it's not like the most precise cooking method.
We're looking for bite size, so that way it's manageable when you go to eat it.
Exactly. And then this way, I'll cut this like in half-ish, like that. And then in half this way, in half there, and half there. And we get lovely cubes of cheese. It's not cheese.
It's tofu.
But when you boil the tofu, it actually takes on a very paneer-like texture. It really does come in close. Someone told me that they even call it tofu cheese or something like that, soy cheese. And the funny thing is, tofu is actually made very similarly to cheese. And we have a video on how to make your own tofu if you wanted to. So, Derica, I'll put a link to that. Anyway, so what we're gonna do next, we're gonna throw this into some boiling water, literally just like you would pasta. Just put it in boiling water, let it go for about 3 to 4 minutes tops, and take it out, and we'll see you then. Okay, so now we move over to the stove. I have a pan on here. This is a nonstick pan. It's on about medium heat, just like that. And the first thing that I have to add is
oil. Just
a little bit to get things cooking. Maybe a tablespoon and a half, might even be 2.
What we're doing right now is we are cooking the aromatics. So that way we have the ability for them to release their flavors and aromas to the maximum potential.
And the first thing I have to add is
1 medium onion.
1 medium onion. I have garlic chopped up with it though, so I'm gonna put the garlic in with it.
Go ahead and put the garlic in there.
And that's 4 cloves of garlic.
Right, so of course we did more.
Yeah, there's like 6. All right, so we start cooking that. You want the onions to get translucent.
And you also want to make sure that you don't burn the garlic, because that is going to make it go bitter.
Yes. Okay, while these are cooking down, we're gonna start adding some other spices. What's next?
1 teaspoon cumin. Now, if you have whole cumin, you could have added that right in with the onions and the garlic and let that roast up. We don't, so we're adding it now and it's ground.
I'm eyeballing because it's just not 100% necessary to be exactly 1 teaspoon. I mean, you know, close enough is close enough. Okay, next ingredient?
1/4 teaspoon turmeric. I always say it wrong. Turmeric?
I say turmeric. 1/4 of a teaspoon? Wow. Yeah, we got a little bit more.
Now even though that looked like a store-bought container, it is a store-bought container, but the contents within are not store-bought.
They used to be store-bought and we're reusing the container with our own homegrown.
Yeah.
Now, as each ingredient goes in, you'll notice that I'm mixing it through. I want to make sure everything gets coated and colored properly, and I'm also trying to not burn anything. Ground spices tend to burn very, very quickly, so be careful. Okay, next.
1 teaspoon ground coriander.
Here we go. That's about a teaspoon. Now we're starting to get some sizzle. And you just play with your heat to keep that from being too much of a sizzle. You know, just a mild sizzle is good. You should hear your cooking just as much as seeing it and smelling it. All right, next.
3/4 of a teaspoon of salt.
That's about right. Next.
Some good grinds of black pepper. I really enjoy black pepper, so I always encourage Brian to go a little overboard. It's perfect.
Okay.
And the final ingredient is 1 teaspoon of garam masala. Now this is a spice blend that's very common in Indian cuisine.
I like it. It's got a really rich aromatic quality to it that's just awesome. I could eat this as it is right now, but it does get better.
All right, so now that we have our aromatics all done, it's time to add the rest of the ingredients.
So in goes our sauce, and mix that around. And I want to cook this down a little bit. It does thicken up as you cook it. Okay, one very important thing that you want to remember here is that that green is gonna stay only if you don't overcook this. So we don't want to cook it too much because you want it to stay that nice bright green. Okay, as you can see, it's starting to thicken up. It's coating the pan basically. So now it's time to add in our tofu that we boiled, unceremoniously apparently. I'm going to turn the heat off at this point and just gently mix that through. I don't want to break up the tofu chunks. And once that's mixed, we plate.
Non più tra I farfalloni amoroso, notte giorno d'intorno girando, delle belle turbando al riposo, Narcisetto a dolcino d'amor. Delle belle turbando al riposo, Narcisetto a dolcino d'amor. Non più avrai questi bei panacchini,
and now we've plated. So that's the end of the video.
No!
Okay, this is Derica's favorite part of the video.
This is really hot. I'm probably going to burn myself, but I just don't care.
Usually she yells at me to blow on things because it's too hot. there's a lot of flavors going on here. Like most Indian food, very flavorful, very rich, lots of layers, lots of depth. The tofu is a perfect stand-in for paneer.
Yeah, it is.
When it's boiled, it still has that like bouncy texture. It's amazing. We used brown rice, by the way, because we're starting to switch over to brown rice, brown pasta, that sort of thing, whole wheat breads, just a little bit healthier, a little bit more fiber. And in this, it adds an extra element of texture that I hadn't considered before.
Oh yeah, it works
Adds a
perfect
little
in
bit of
this.
chewiness
Yep.
that works beautifully in this dish.
Now the sauce is this perfect, velvety, smooth, super unctuous, creamy sauce. It is flavorful. It is a delight to the tongue as it is visually appealing.
Once you've made each of the elements, meaning the sauce with the paneer, you can actually refrigerate that and reheat it later. And like a lot of things, it gets better the next day.
Yeah.
The rice, just make it up as you need it, but of course you can refrigerate rice too and just reheat as you need it. I don't know that I would want to freeze either of these elements. I think the tofu might get weird because it's already been frozen and just other stuff and whatever.
Yeah.
But this is wonderful. Derica always asked me to make this, and I always put it off because I'm like, oh, it's so much work. But honestly, it's really not that much work. It's blend up some stuff and cook it all together and throw it in and you're done. I mean, it's about as hard as making pasta. In reality, it's just not that difficult. So make this and enjoy it. And as always, guys, thank you so much for watching and have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Leggero galante, quella chioma, quell'aria brillante, quel vermiglio d'onesco color, quel